Dominican Migration to the United States of America, third and final episode. It's estimated that by 2024, there were more than 2 million Dominicans living throughout the American territory, occupying fifth place on the list of the largest Latino populations in the U.S., surpassed by Mexico, Puerto Rico, El Salvador, and Cuba, at least at the time of this recording. For those that have immigrated to the United States over the past few decades, and who may have come as teenagers or young adults, remembering those first few months away from home, away from their families and friends, still brings some sadness. And it's because although they have been able to witness the great changes that the Latino community has experienced in the United States, part of their hearts stayed in the Dominican Republic. Dominicans are resilient and persevering. This is demonstrated by the significant evolution in their quality of life and how they've integrated into the American society. The Dominican community has made substantial progress in labor participation and education. They've excelled in positions of political relevance by holding public office, which can significantly impact and encourage the younger generations. In the labor industry, they've engaged in a variety of jobs including transportation, small and large businesses, agriculture, administrative jobs, and others. Dominicans have contributed significantly to the American culture, especially in music, cuisine, and sports. Bachata and merengue, for example, are no longer only relevant within the Dominican community, but has now found favor throughout the U.S. and is growing in popularity among many cultures. There's been an increase in the number of Dominicans attending college and starting their own businesses. This has created new opportunities and helped improve economic strength within the community. It's impossible to deny that the Dominican culture has advanced and is succeeding in overcoming the cultural challenges and language barriers that once limited them. Many of those who left their families in the Dominican Republic paid a high price to come to the United States, especially those who immigrated illegally. While they likely planned to help those who stayed at home by sending money when they could, the life they left behind was changing rapidly. They're now absent fathers, mothers, or grandparents. They missed important life events such as birthdays, baptisms, and funerals. Their best friends moved on and started their own families. Little by little, the absence became less noticeable. And of course, some left when they were still very young and are totally unknown to their families in the Dominican Republic, unknown to the culture, and perhaps even the language. For many of these migrants, those days to celebrate with family, such as Christmas, were celebrated alone, or perhaps in the company of strangers, always dreaming and longing to spend time with their families back in the Dominican Republic. No matter how long one has been living outside the Dominican Republic, when asked what plans are for the future, one of the answers is almost always to return to my homeland. Living in the United States offers many economic and social opportunities, but this doesn't mean the life of a migrant is perfect. Although we touched on this topic in a previous video, the struggles with cultural adaptation, discrimination, xenophobia, and if here illegally, the constant fear of being deported are ever present. Those who manage to start a family in the U.S. face the challenge of returning to a country where they may now often feel like strangers. The neighborhood in which they grew up, if it still exists, has more than likely changed completely. The adults who corrected them in their youth and complained to their parents about rebellious behavior are no longer there. Most have moved on, and the neighbors that do remain may no longer remember them or simply don't recognize them anymore. And as years go by while living abroad, the immigrant faces a new dilemma. This time, it's not about the risk of leaving for a foreign country. It's more about returning to their own. There's even a term for it. Return to migrant syndrome, also known as Ulysses syndrome, refers to the emotional and psychological distress experienced by people who return to their homeland after living abroad for an extended period. Reintegrating into the labor field back home can be very challenging, especially if the skills acquired abroad are not easily transferable to the local market. Also taking into consideration that many of those who return may already be advanced in age, limiting their chances of finding meaningful employment. Also, adapting back to the culture and social norms of the Dominican Republic can be very difficult. Social expectations and roles have likely changed dramatically during their absence. So it's very likely that returnees will experience that return to migrant syndrome, feeling disconnected from their country of origin as well as the country they just left. However, returning to the Dominican Republic can be very rewarding, and that coming back home can foster a deeper connection with family and a more profound appreciation of their cultural roots. Some returnees find the cost of living lower and enjoy a more relaxed lifestyle compared to the fast pace of the U.S. Returnees can bring new perspective and skills acquired while living abroad, benefiting their local communities. So that wraps up our thoughts on migrating to the U.S., as well as some considerations for returning home to the Dominican Republic after an extended stay. If you found this information helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. And if you have personal experiences you'd like to share with others, please comment below.